Our top story this afternoon, Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, who ruled Libya for 42 years, has been captured and killed in his hometown of Sirte. Now, all day long, there have been conflicting reports about exactly how this happened, but the very latest is that it was done when a U.S. drone fired a Hellfire missile at Gaddafi's convoy. Now, all day, this picture, captured from a cell phone video, has been shown to people around the world, with rebel fighters claiming victory. Gaddafi's death comes 2 months after Libya's capital, Tripoli, was taken over by those rebels, and 7 months after a United Nations Security Council resolution called for a ceasefire and authorized military intervention to protect civilians. This action was soon taken over by NATO, and that is how involvement in Libya started. But certainly, things began to change, ending, of course, with today's news of Gaddafi's killing. Now let's listen to a speech given by Russian Prime Minister Vladimir Putin back in April in Denmark, where he essentially lashed out at the changed nature of the mission in Libya and questioned who had the right to make that call. Take a listen.
The coalition said destroying Gaddafi was not their goal. Then why bomb his palaces? Now some officials have claimed that eliminating him was in fact their goal. Who gave them that right? Did he have a fair trial? Returning to the no-fly zone, the bombings are destroying the country's entire infrastructure. When the so-called civilized world uses all its military power against a small country, destroying what's been created by generations, I don't know if that's good.
Gaddafi nationalized key sectors of the oil resources and negotiated fairer prices within OPEC for oil-producing countries. He used the oil revenues to build schools, universities, hospitals, and much-needed infrastructure. Before Gaddafi, fewer than 1/5 of Libyans were literate, no access to education for the majority of people, and then after Gaddafi, free quality education system, including university, and the literacy rate rose to 83%. Libya has free healthcare. All people, including the rebels, have access to doctors, hospitals, clinics, and medicines free of charge. If a Libyan needs surgery that is unavailable in Libya, funding is provided for the surgery to be carried out overseas. Soon after the revolution, basic food items were subsidized and electricity was made available throughout the country. Huge irrigation projects were established in order to support a drive towards agriculture development and self-sufficiency in food production. Gaddafi initiated the construction of the Great Man-Made River, referred to in the Guinness Book of Records as a wonder of the modern world. This gigantic river has managed to turn the coastal desert green.
In its early days, skeptics called it the Great Madman's River, a reference to the Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi and its enormous expense, billions of dollars.
Any Libyan who wanted to become a farmer was and still is given free use of land, a house, farm equipment, livestock, and seeds. Gaddafi vowed to house every Libyan, many of whom were still living in tents and houses made out of oil drums. He also vowed that his own parents, who lived in a tent, would not be housed until every Libyan was housed.
His mother had only one complaint. Her son insists that they remain in their tent until every Libyan is properly housed.
He fulfilled that promise, his own father dying before he had the opportunity to move him into a home. Large-scale housing construction took place right across the country, all Libyans being given a house or apartment to live in for free. Under the leadership of Gaddafi, Libya has attained the highest standard of living in Africa, rated on the UN's HDI ahead of Russia, Brazil, and Saudi Arabia. In 2007, in an article which appeared in the African Executive magazine, it was noted that Libya, unlike other oil-producing countries such as Nigeria, utilized the revenue from its oil to develop its country. Gaddafi believes that economic democracy can only be achieved when the GDP of a country benefits all of its citizens, and when the country's wealth is dispersed to every single citizen. Today, money from Libya's oil revenue is directly deposited into the bank account of every Libyan. Gaddafi is dedicated to the emancipation of Libyan women, encouraging them to participate in all aspects of political life. The revolution ensured that women gained full access to education and has actively encouraged acceptance of female paid employment. Libya is a very traditional society, and these moves by Gaddafi have been met with stiff resistance, especially by the forces in Benghazi. He opposed the U.S. invasion of Iraq and condemned those Arab leaders who supported the so-called coalition of the willing, earning the wrath of the Saudi monarchy when he said that the Kaaba was under the yoke of American occupation, and questioned what meaning the Hajj has for Muslims as long as the American occupation of the sacred house of God continues. In October of 2010, Gaddafi was the first and only leader in the Arab world to formally apologize for the Arab role in the trade and capture of Africans. This infuriated Arab leaders, disgruntled with the arrogance of the Arab leaders and the continual thorn in their side, as he openly criticized their hypocrisy and servitude to Western imperialism. Gaddafi became isolated in the Arab world. He called on the African Union to give representation to Africans in the U.S., Europe, the Caribbean, and South America. In a recent speech, he said, "From now on, by the will of God, I will assign teams to search, investigate, and liaise with the Africans in Europe, and to check their situation. This is my duty and role towards the sons of Africa. I am a soldier for Africa. I am here for you, and I work for you. Therefore, I will not leave you, and I will follow up on your conditions." One of Gaddafi's most controversial and difficult moves has been his determined drive to unite Africa with a shared vision for the true independence and liberation of the entire continent. He has contributed a great deal of his time, energy, and large sums of money to this project.
When war broke out in Uganda, the Congo, Ethiopia, and Eritrea, Gaddafi negotiated ceasefires, part of his long-held dream of creating a unified continent called the United States of Africa.
While the Libyan revolution has irritated the West since its inception, and although they never forgave Gaddafi for nationalizing Libya's oil, the most worrying move has been his call for the unification of Africa. After years of tireless effort on the part of Gaddafi and the Libyan revolutionary movement, the idea of a United States of Africa is gaining real momentum and support on the continent. In 1982, the World Mathaba was established in Libya. Mathaba means a gathering place for people with a common purpose. The World Mathaba brought together revolutionaries and freedom fighters from every corner of the globe to share ideas and develop their revolutionary knowledge. Many liberation groups received education, training, and support from Libya. These are just some of the groups that Gaddafi has helped, and because of his support, Gaddafi has been labeled a terrorist. Nelson Mandela called Gaddafi one of the 20th century's greatest freedom fighters and insisted the eventual collapse of the apartheid system owed much to Gaddafi and Libyan support. Mandela said that, in the darkest moments of our struggle, when our backs were to the wall, Muammar Gaddafi stood with us.
عمركم شفتوا جماهير بهذا الشكل اللي كانت ضدكم؟ بس انتم جماهيركم ضدكم في الشوارع، واحنا شوفوا الجماهير. اما انتم يا اخوتي تبغوا تنهوا الازمه هذه، راهو الحل بيدكم انتم.
A 80 kilómetros de la capital libia, en la ciudad de Al-Hailat, miles se concentraron en pleno respaldo a las autoridades libias. Han mantenido una posición firme desde que la OTAN incursionara en territorio libio bajo el amparo de una resolución de Naciones Unidas. Los manifestantes cuestionan los propósitos de la fuerza extranjera.
Estamos listos para hacer cualquier cosa por defender a nuestro país, nuestro líder, nuestro pueblo. Así que quiero preguntarle a la OTAN, a Europa, a Estados Unidos, si estos sucesos ocurrieran en Estados Unidos, ¿los aceptarían? Esto no es aceptable. Lo que está pasando ahora no es aceptable.
Almost all your life in England, so why come back to fight in the Libyan revolution only 2 weeks before the crucial period?
Well, the reason I left my country 16 years ago because of this regime. When the time comes, you know, I have to come back to my country to defend myself and my family.
What did you think you would be doing?
When
you came back?
Well, first of all, I start just, you know, helping poor people, you know, refugees by, you know, Tunisia. We used to take some medicine to the mountain, you know, food, milk, children milk. Till about a week ago when it started, I decided to come with the rebels here.
Pick up a gun?
Well, I don't use a gun before, but I did, yes, this time.
How much training did you get?
A day.
And then you were pitched straight into battle?
Oh, yes, because, you know, we don't have many people that can fight here. Most people supported Gaddafi here, you say.
The late Colonel Gaddafi's son and key right-hand man, Saif al-Islam, has reportedly crossed the border from the Libyan desert into Niger. It's believed he's trying to negotiate a surrender to hand himself in to the International Criminal Court. If he does eventually stand trial, he could yet spill some of the secrets of the regime's murky dealings with the same governments that helped topple his father. RT's Ivor Bennett reports.
To some, Muammar Gaddafi was a man who knew too much. Secrets which will, supposedly, be buried with him.
I think that there were tremendous sighs of relief all over capitals in Western Europe. This is somebody who cut all sorts of deals, particularly with the French, but also the British and the Italians, and to a certain extent the Americans as well. I think they did not want him put on trial for any reason. And I am not in the slightest bit surprised that he was captured alive and he very quickly ended up dead.
Gaddafi's return from diplomatic exile was spectacular. Hugs, handshakes and kisses from the heads of countries which denounced him. Gaddafi's now silenced, but the suspicion around those who laid out the welcome mat is far from buried.
Gaddafi has gone to his grave taking his secrets with him, but the shadow that dealing with him has cast on Tony Blair's reputation, on Sarkozy and so on, won't go away. And precisely because of this uncertain situation, the suspicion will probably grow rather than shrink. So it may actually, ironically, lead to a situation where they can never, as it were, prove their innocence.
Then British Prime Minister Tony Blair was instrumental in Gaddafi's rehabilitation, bringing him in from the cold in 2007. But Blair didn't leave empty-handed. Trade between them flourished, so did the cosy relationship. There were 6 more secret meetings after Blair left office, his people denying they were about releasing the Lockerbie bomber, Abdel Basset al-Megrahi, or Britain would lose its lucrative Libyan deals. Some details of the murky dealings have already emerged, claiming the reputation of one of Britain's leading universities. The London School of Economics agreed a contract with the Gaddafi regime worth over £2 million to educate hundreds of its future civil servants. The director here was forced to resign, and now the University of Tripoli is demanding the money back. French leader Nicolas Sarkozy was never shy in greeting Gaddafi, even letting him pitch his tent in the Élysée Palace, apparently for bankrolling Sarkozy's path to the presidency. So says this man, the one who could still tell all.
Sarkozy must give back the money he took from Libya to finance his electoral campaign. We funded it, and we have all the details, and are ready to reveal everything.
Saif al-Islam, a Gaddafi son and key right-hand man, reportedly ready to surrender to the War Crimes Court.
Saif is going to have a lot of information on that. I think it was Saif that Tony Blair intervened for him to help him get his dodgy PhD degree from the London School of Economics, when a lot of that degree apparently was plagiarized. So there's a lot of things that have gone on that Saif al-Gaddafi knows about.
Saif Gaddafi's wanted to answer for his own actions in Libya's drawn-out battle for control, but it's what he could reveal about the diplomatic deals with his father that's keeping the Western power players sweating.